Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the LSU Library Grand Rounds. I'm Julia Sparza, Professor and Executive Director of the library. First, some housekeeping. Due to an administrative issue that is completely my fault, CME may not be awarded for this lecture, so if you're a clinician, I truly apologize. However, I'm hoping that it'll be resolved and you will get credit. I'm just waiting. So, for those who are online, you will get an evaluation link at the end of the lecture. You will need to complete the evaluation, and then you will get a link to a second form that will allow you to actually register that you attended the session. And when you fill that out, that's what will hopefully provide credit to you. The data between the evaluation and the registration that you were attended are not tied together. For those who are here attending in person, please make sure you fill out your evaluation. If you haven't signed in, you need to do that. So today I'm very excited to introduce our speaker, Erin Ware. Oh, and just that pounding is them cleaning the vents today. So welcome to LSUHS. Erin Ware, who is our speaker, has a master's in library and information science from LSU. As a faculty in the library, she is our systematic review and reference librarian. She manages the library's systematic review service and has handled over 170 evidence synthesis projects since 2020. Each synthesis project can take between 18 to 25 hours. She is an author or co-author of over 10 peer-reviewed publications. She has served as the president of the Hospital Libraries Interest Group of the South Central chapter of the Medical Library Association and president of the Health Sciences Library Association of Louisiana. In 2024, she was awarded the Lucy B. Foote Award for Special Librarianship from the Louisiana Library Association. She has no conflicts of interest for this session.
I'm going to talk about practical applications of artificial intelligence. This is the practical application that I would prefer to see. I would have loved a robot to come to my laundry, roll on my clothes, but unfortunately, we're not there yet. If you don't mind, scan this QR code and I'll maybe with a couple of questions so I can see information about them. If you're joining us on Zoom, you can go to that. Or you can just go to minty.com and put in that code. There's a couple of questions on there. The first one is how much experience do you have? I will trade places with the person with extensive experience. So you can just go up here. And then I was just wondering if you all are medical or drivers, depending on
Talk loud.
Oh, sorry. Depending on what you do, you'll have different needs. Okay, so we have a ton of slides to get through. I just okay. It's not, there's no end to all the new information about artificial intelligence, things you can do. But if we don't get through slides to all of them, or if you just want to go back and look at the slides, or look at it in the week, this Padlet has everything on it. You might want to write down the URL. Most of the stuff I'm going to talk about is also linked there. So if you look at the news at all, you've probably seen some wild stories about artificial intelligence, like this teddy bear that uses ChatGPT to tell his bedtime stories, which I can't imagine any of that could go wrong. Waymo's self-driving cars, But there's also things that are amazing, like these glasses that are for people with central vision loss. And I guess it uses artificial intelligence to put the images in periphery so they get the full view of what they're looking at. The last just couple of weeks, there have been articles about the NHS in the UK and our HHS and their plans with artificial intelligence. HHS also just released their AI strategic plan, which is at that week. I don't think it's on the Padlet, but I'll make sure it is. And this is scary. There is, of course, now tons of junk science that is just AI generated in Google Scholar. So there's a lot of initials in AI terms. AI, artificial intelligence, of course. Another one is LLM, that's large language model. Most of the stuff that you heard about, like ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever, they are large language models, or they use large language models. So, how does it work? At the basic level, it's just large data sets used for training and then algorithms used to predict the response, what the response should be. Tokens are the subwords or the words or some of the words that it takes from whatever you type to predict what the answer should be. Temperature affects how creative or fact-based, I guess, the response will be. So if the temperature is lower, it will use less creativity responding, and if it's higher, it will use more creativity responding. And then they have been tuned either by humans or now other language models. Language models are one type of AI. Vision models are another, and multimodal is the language does not have to be human language. There are, of course, ChatGPT is use text to train the original training. But there are also protein language models and math language models. It's data. It doesn't necessarily have to be what we think of as language. Vision models, I bet you can guess, process visual data. And that's what like image generation uses or self-driving cars. Multimodal models can process audio, video, text, just multiple things. Not necessarily all of them in one, but at least two. The brand new or the newest iteration of ChatGPT and Gemini both are multimodal. I kind of went down a rabbit hole with this, and I wasn't sure if I should include it, but then I thought, actually, it is something that you need to have an understanding of. There are three main architecture types. An encoder model focuses on understanding what you put in. So the focus is like the prompt or whatever data is put in. So it's great for things like classifying documents or sentiment analysis or detecting like if you suddenly have a charge on your credit card for like $10,000 in Robux, it would detect an anomaly like that. Decoder models are what the conversational AIs like ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot, they actually use a decoder model, and the focus for those is not on the response. It's not on what you meant. It's not on what the input means. It is focused on generating output. So that's something that you need to understand. You might get an answer that doesn't make sense for your question. And that's why it's focused on putting out, the most likely answer for the tokens from your input, but not on actually understanding your input. Encoder decoder models are what are used for more complex tasks, and they focus on understanding the input and the output. So it's for things like translation, like Google Translate, or summarization of articles or whatever. So In addition to writing a good prompt, you also need to use the best kind of model for your needs. And speaking of writing prompts, if you get a bad answer or you get something that doesn't seem like what you expect it to be, it may be because of the way you asked it. So there's a link on the Padlet that has tons of information about different ways to write prompts, but that is not something that we have time to get through right now. So a zero-shot prompt is where you don't give an example. You just ask the AI model to do a task or answer a question with no example of how it should be done. Most of the time, that's going to be sufficient for most things, but a one-shot prompt is where you give an example of the way that you want the task to be done, and a few shot of it, you can guess, it's where you give a few examples. I'm going to show y'all a one-shot prompt in just a minute when we get to that part, so I'll make sure to point that out. Another thing you can do is to ask the model to, so if you put an example in and then you reason out how you get the answer, that will make it more effective in producing the answer to the next question. Like with a math word problem, if you give your chain of thought as an example, it will then be able to do that task with a much higher rate of success than without. Okay, so practical uses. What can you actually do to save you time or to make work better? I'm not going to go through all of these, but they will be on the Padlet. Okay, so the big three, ChatGPT, Gemini, and Copilot. You've heard of these, you know, they all do basically the same things. ChatGPT is you can use the free version or you can use the paid version. It's by OpenAI, so it's open source-ish. If you have the paid version, you can make a custom GPT, and you can also use custom GPTs that other people have made. It's updated pretty frequently, so it improves. It's what it is today is so much more than what it was 2 years ago. Gemini is Google's AI. It's about the same. It does about the same things. It has had internet access since the beginning, unlike ChatGPT. But now it's free with a paid version available. If you pay for it, you can use like voice chat or integrate it with email. One of the neat things that Gemini added pretty recently was you can put at open steps, and then it will use. Can you hear me online?
I'm checking. Just go ahead.
Okay. Copilot is integrated, it's Microsoft. It uses actually the same, it uses OpenAI's model. So it's using GPT 4.0 for the first few questions that you asked, and then 3.5. It's embedded in Edge. So, if you open Edge on your computer here, it'll have a little icon where you can ask the policy. You can add an image, you can add screenshots, or like a Word file, and it comes up with those questions. And also, Microsoft also has established educational videos about how to use it and how to write prompts. I think that we have access to some of those. I wasn't able to open all of them when I tried, but we that. Okay, so like I said, you can make your own GPT. if you're a paid subscriber to ChatGPT. And this is just an example of some of the things that you can get in the GPT store. Scholar GPT is one that's made for analyzing articles, or there's different ones. There's ones to make like coloring book pages. You can find a variety of things. So depending on what you need, you may be able to find something that will help you out. This is an example of a one-shot prompt. I needed to put all my CE classes that I've ever taken on my CD, and I did not want to spend hours and hours doing that. So I downloaded a transcript, and it was just a mess. So I copied and pasted the transcript into ChatGPT, and I said, this is what it looks like. This is what it should look like, and gave an example of the way that I wanted it formatted. And then it reformatted the whole thing for me. It saved a couple hours. I think it still worked the way I wanted it to. There's lots of things like that that you can use. Like, for instance, if you're doing a search and you need to type the names of every state, well, that is just extra work that you don't need to do. Copy and paste it into ChatGPT and tell it how you want it to do the formatting. Copilot, this is from Copilot, but again, they all do about the same thing. I told it to make slides for an anatomy class. I didn't tell it the topic, so the slides weren't actually very useful. But it did, like in a few minutes, I had a slide deck. You can then expand the topic. You can get it to create a script. When I told it to make it more interactive, it gave me a couple of case studies, and then I told it to expand the case study and add details. So you can get usable things like that that save you a lot of time. This is Gemini. I told it to explain the renin, angiotensin, aldosterone system. And it did that with links to educational resources, and then asked for videos, and it gives me videos. If you need to make something quickly for a class, of course you have to look at it because the answers may not all be right. But with links, you can check and verify that the model is answering you correctly. So if there's any students in here who are going to be taking the step one, you can, and I know this is maybe not the best way to study, but I know a lot of people are using AIs to study. So I asked it to help me study for step one, and it gave me questions, and then I answered with reasonable answers, and it kept saying I was right. So the next one, I said that alien abduction was the condition. And it actually did say I was wrong, so at least I knew that if the answer was wrong or just totally off the wall, it would say that. Before you get too excited and only use Gemini to study for step one, it asked me, I switched, that was using Gemini 1.5, but I switched to Gemini 2.0 and asked the same thing. It asked me the 4 main categories of tissues in the human body, and I said adipose, vascular, IDK. And it said that I was half right. So I guess humans don't have nerve tissues or connective tissue anymore. So, might not be the best way to study. But just thinking about how far these things have come in the last couple of years, there's no telling what it's going to be like in a year or maybe not even that long. You have to just make sure that you are not being gullible, and know that you have to verify information that you get from an AI. Okay, so I tried to put an audio drum roll here, but I couldn't get it exactly right. So if you look at the slides later, you can listen to my drum roll, because this is just the coolest thing I've seen lately. This is a new tool from Google. It is called Notebook LM. And if you open a notebook and upload an open source article, this is one that was in PubMed Central, so it is, not breaking any copyright laws to do this. The FDA banned red dye #3 yesterday, so I put an article about synthetic dyes again, and in your notebook, and you can put multiple articles too. So it gives a summary of the article, and then the coolest thing is it will make a podcast based on the article or articles that you save to your notebook. It sounded like two people. It sounded like a real podcast. My colleague and I listened to it, and we were just amazed. And it is on the Padlet. So if you want to listen to a podcast that sounds like actual real people discussing an article, it's on the Padlet. In addition to that, it will make a study guide for the articles or for whatever you put in. So Amanda, you can also put in social studies textbooks, and it'll make a study guide. So anything that you have a link to on the internet or that you have in Google Drive, you can put in Notebook LM and study guide, make a quiz, whatever, make a podcast, make a timeline. It's really neat. This is the study guide that it made based on the articles, and it included an answer key. It's pretty new. I think it came out the end of September, and I haven't played around with it all that much. But from what I've seen, it's just really cool. Another thing that you can use the AI models for is image creation and editing. So these are vision models, mostly. Image effects is Google, and it's what Gemini uses as well. But you can go to AI. I'll show you this in just a second. But you can go to AI Test Kitchen, and you can do things like adjust the temperature, and you can see what tokens it uses. There's Dolly and ChatGPT. If you're not a paid subscriber to ChatGPT, I think you can only create like 2 or 3 images a day. Paid subscriber. And then I'll show you background out. Okay, so AI Test Kitchen is a Google Labs product. They test, different things there. It's usually creative stuff. You can make music, you can make an image, or you can make videos. And the thing that was just added, I could think of no educational use for this, but the new thing they just added is you take a picture and it makes the person into a plushie. Julie, look up. So if anybody would like to purchase it, I'm not selling you.
I'm so gonna get one of those for my son.
I'm working on, I didn't have time to do this yesterday, but I'm making an SLT file, STL file, and I will be printing you one on Noah's new 3800. Won't be a plushie, but close enough. This is image effects. I guess I'm just a weirdo because I was preparing a class about posters a couple of years ago, and like if you're doing a poster presentation, you're standing by your poster for hours, for an hour, and people are walking by and you're so bored, you're just staring at people like a dog in a cage staring at people. At the time, there was nothing advanced enough to create an image like that, but I tried again, and now I have a sad dog standing by a poster. I did the same thing in ChatGPT, and I tried multiple times to get it to turn the dog facing forward, but it's just a good time. But I guess professors just wear hat and gown all the time. But anyway, yeah. So if you have an idea for a class and you need a weird picture for a slideshow, and that picture does not exist, that's something you can do. Cutout Pro is super fast and easy to use. You can take backgrounds out of images. So if you need a picture of yourself, no background. There's other stuff you can do, and there's all kinds of stuff you can do. That's what I've used it for. One of the things that I was most excited about a couple months ago is Scribe. You may have seen ads for this. If you need to show someone how to do a thing, you can just get on your computer, open Scribe, do whatever the task is, and it makes slides or video for you. You don't have to take screenshots. You don't have to narrate it. You may have to fix its narration a little bit, but I have a video I'm about to show y'all that I made in just less than 5 minutes. There's multiple tutorials on our website that I've made using this, and I think there's like 5. It probably took me less than half an hour to make all of them. I think Otter's blocked here, but you've probably seen this in a Zoom meeting. It is an AI tool that goes to your Zoom meetings with you, and it organizes, it transcribes it, organizes everything, and then sends out a summary to the people in the meeting. Another cool tool is Wiki. If you have text of, a presentation that you want to do, or something you want to upload to a website or anything, you can put the text in. It uses AI to find pictures, royalty-free pictures that match your text, and it narrates it. There's an example of that on that. But Embase has a query translator tool, and so I used.
If you're comfortable searching PubMed, you can easily search Embase too.
I did not have to write any.
Navigate to this link.
I just did this.
Begin writing your search.
Tutorial. Okay, we're not gonna watch the whole thing.
Go to Advanced and hit the down arrow by your search. This will show.
Okay, I'll stop that so you don't have thirst for films. But you can watch the whole video. It's on our guides, and it's also in the packet. Okay, so research. Of course, it's gonna depend on what kind of research you need to do. But the things that I've found most useful are Elicit and Research Rabbit. SciSpace does about the same thing as Elicit. Okay, SciSpace. It will do literature reviews for you. So I put in a question, put in your research question. I said, is progressive weight bearing safe for recovery from leg fractures? Because I was pretty sure I knew what the top citation would be. And it found the top 5 papers and summarized them for me. It may be the reason that I don't like this is because it says B and my middle name is Elizabeth. It just completely connected that paper to someone else. But it does this. You can add other columns. It's another one where it's free, but there's a paid version if you want all the functionality. But it's pretty cool. Here's what it looks like when you add a few more columns. Elicit does about the same stuff. It's really, really good for data extraction though. It has a new feature that's being beta tested, conduct a systematic review. It doesn't work how you would think it would work. But I'll show you all that. So, with Elicit, you create a library or a notebook. You put the papers that you want to extract data from, and then you choose exactly what you want it to extract from each article, and it creates a paper for you. It includes links, so of course, you're going to need to check to make sure everything is right. But it included links to the place in the text that it got that answer from. So, it's pretty easy. You can just click on it and make sure that the answers are right. I have in this notebook a lot. I think it's about 100 articles, and that would take that's something that takes a ton of time to do. It did it in a few minutes, and then you just have to spend the time you would have done, time you would have spent, all of it by hand, just making sure that things are right. I think one article has come out, validating it, but I would not suggest doing this in systematic review and sending it to a publisher right now, without a lot more validation. But from what I've seen so far, it's pretty amazing. It can even do things like find the URL in the paper, which for some reason is really hard for most models to do. Like it found things like, it found everything I asked it to. So I wanted to, of course, try the new systematic review feature, and I put in my research question, and it just brought up the articles that I already had in a different notebook. It doesn't like do a search for you. It just you would have to do the search first, download your articles, upload them, and then you can work on it in Elicit. Research Rabbit is completely different. You may have heard of this. There's a couple of different ones that do the same thing. You can take related articles. These are about using teddy bears in emergency room. You put your PMIDs in there, or the URLs or the DOIs, and you select the ones that you want to find related articles for, and it uses the references and the author names to find other articles that are related to either your topic or your person, your authors. And then it shows you the way that they're connected. It's really neat, especially if it's something that you're having trouble finding things that are related to it. There's another website, Connected Papers, and I think it does pretty much the same thing. You can also click on the articles to go to the articles. You can download it to an RS file and to put in Zotero or EndNote. It's just, if you haven't ever used it, you should check it out. It's very useful. Okay. So if you are doing some other kind of research that is not good for the graphic, Hugging Face may be a good thing for you to check out. It is just a huge repository and workspace. You can create your own model in that. You can train it, and when people have created and trained models, they can also make them available to other people. So you can see if there's a model that does whatever specific thing you need it to do, and you can use it there. Claude is another. It's just a conversational AI that you can also use for research. It is the creator of it says it's helpful, honest, and harmless. It is something that you can use that will provide citations. I'm going to show y'all Hugging Face and Google AI Studio, but another thing that I found interesting that I wanted to just mention is Goblin Tools. You can use it to put a task that you want to do, and it will break it down into steps for you. So you can you have like a test you need to study for, or a paper you need to write. It will break it down into steps and tell you how long each step should take. So it was created for like people with ADHD, and it's pretty neat. Okay, so this is what it looks like when you go to the website. It has pre-trained models that you can use. It has data sets you can use to train pre-model. It's got a lot of educational resources too. So if you decide you want to make your own AI with your own data, you can pretty much, find how to do that. And you can use the resources that have already been trained, or code that's already been written to help you with that happens. One of the things I thought would be neat was if you had an otoscope that you just like, when you use it, it uses AI to diagnose. So I looked to see if anybody had tried to do that, and it doesn't actually work. So you can think of that. So there's just whatever you can think of, you can probably find something that someone else has been working on that may be ready for you to use, or maybe in still being built. This is a protein. Okay, so what this does is it tells you the binding affinity of a drug sequence to the target. That's pretty specific, and there's a lot of things in HuffingSpace like this that you can buy. Google AI Studio is one of my favorite things to use because you can use new models before they come out, and you can create things that are, it's like with ChatGPT where people create GPTs. This is where you can work on stuff like that, or I guess you're not, you can probably use it with ChatGPT. So you can tune prompts or create structured prompts or do, I'll just show it off. So I was working with a department that needed this very specific thing done that they didn't want to have to do by hand for every document. So using this, you can put in your own system instructions. So every time you use an AI, like say you go and use ChatGPT, it's going to have instructions, system instructions that it's going to give ChatGPT that you won't necessarily see. So with this, you can go in and put your own system instructions in that tell the model exactly how you want it to behave and what you want it to do every time you ask the question. So put the system instructions in of the exact tasks that I want it to do. So at that point, you only have to put in the PDFs, and it does those things for each PDF. When you're in Google AI Studio, you can also change the temperature. So, for something like this, we wanted a low temperature because we didn't want it to make up anything. But if you're trying to create an AI that tells ridiculous jokes, you can turn the temperature up. But it's just cool because you can adjust things a lot more, and you can adjust the number of tokens you want it to use, and things like that. You can also, if you have a specific thing that you do a lot and you have examples of the way you want it to be done, you can put in examples. Okay, so for this, I wanted to see if I could get an AI to write a systematic review search. So I put in a bunch of systematic review search, I put in the topic and like the research question and a bunch of examples. And it did okay. I've been working on this off and on for a while. It does okay. They're not exactly usable as they are, but it does a much better job than anything else. And whatever the thing is that you want to do, you can go and put your examples in and tell it what you want it to do, and try to make all of it works for you. And it's very user friendly. This is another thing that I was playing around with, just putting, this is specific to being a librarian, but I put in images and I was trying to get it to create mark records for images, and you can do things like that in Google AI Studio. And you can see over on the side where you can change the model. So you can have it use Gemini 2.0 or an older model or some new ones that aren't out yet. You can adjust the temperature, you can adjust the token, you can adjust how long you want the responses to be. It's just very adjustable, I guess. So you have a lot more control. Yeah. Wow, I guess that felt really fast. Okay. So does anybody have any questions that you would like for me to answer?
So I submitted a paper to a journal this past week. It's the first time I've ever had a journal say, you need to disclose the use of AI.
Oh, yeah.
So I guess if I'm going to at some point, are you gonna disclose that the same way you would like, I use
Yeah, you need to
SPSS
cite it.
25 or?
I'll actually pull that up. So when we originally planned this, Elliot and I were gonna do a class together, and he was gonna talk about that, and I was gonna talk about using the uses, but we split it up. So on the Padlet and on the Lizard, there's a bunch of information about copyright and publishing and, you know, what different journals have said. Don't use any images that you created in AI. Don't try to make an image, and put it in your paper and send it to the publisher. That's a no-no right now. Anytime you use an AI tool, for anything you're gonna publish, you need to cite it. You need to be very specific about what you did, as specific as possible. And, you know, cite it like you would any other tool that you use. Different publishers have different, requirements, but these are pretty representative. They're all about the same. They want you to cite it. You cannot copyright anything that was created by an AI. The Copyright Office has released, the Copyright Office has released guidance on that. I'm sure this will continue to evolve a lot. If an AI created it, you didn't create it, so you can't copyright it. It's not copyrightable because a human had to be the one to create it to copyright it. So that links on here, but it's evolving. You know, this is a new thing that has been just recently become an issue. But yeah, definitely if we use, even with stuff like codants or, you know, stuff that has like a little bit of AI built in, we need to disclose whether we use certain things. For that.
So can I ask a follow-up question on that? So is there a standardized language that the library is forming or recommends for,
Deciding what
well, anticipating that papers are gonna meet this and having something that we can plug in? Or is it really look in the journal, look what other papers say?
Yeah, you need to see what the journal says. And they may not say anything, or they may refer to the publisher. But most of the publishers, I went and checked most of the big ones. Most of them have a bit of guidance. Some of them have more, but it still depends. But that is something, you know, hopefully there'll be some kind of standardized, way for saying. Anybody? Questions?
We
got a question in-
The terms used in one of the last slides, so the Lego Mark 21.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what that term means.
Oh, okay, yeah, it's really specific to libraries. It's the cataloging metadata. So it's what makes you be able to find, like when you go to the library website and type in a title, it uses that to find it. That's where the information. But you can use it for other stuff like that. Like if you want to write a code that does whatever you want to write a code to do, you can use an AI to do that. And probably you could, you might have a code that represents a picture in there and have to go through it for it. It's really great for coding. If you don't have any coding experience, you can use all these AI models for really well for writing code. So you can use it for that.
Hey, Erin, we've got a question in the chat.
The answer may not be an answer. So if we're using it in an educational setting and we're allowing our students, you know, to instruct, give them a rubric per se of what they're allowed, what type of input they're allowed to use, or what level they're allowed to use AI to build what they're turning in. And we ask them to turn in their transcript or like print their transcript that shows what their search was and whatnot to prove they're not just plagiarizing everything. Is it easy? To me, it seems, but I could be wrong, it seems almost easy to alter that transcript. It seems like they can kind of quickly delete certain components of the transcript, but then submit their transcript to us and have them shared to you. Do y'all have any suggestions or?
So with ChatGPT,
My question was gonna be, is there any way to screen for this in mass, but you've got
Yeah.
40 papers to read.
At first, it was pretty obvious because it's the text that it was just done kind of uncanny. It was just 20 modifiers. You could tell that it wasn't a person that wrote it. You can't tell anymore. I know that Gemini or Google and ChatGPT both watermark stuff. But they're not exactly going to tell you how they watermark it. Because if you put something in Gemini and ask Gemini, if Gemini wrote it, it should be able to answer you or ChatGPT. But I mean, it's information they're not going to share. Most of the plagiarism detectors, the AI use detectors, it's hit or miss. You can't prove anything. I know I've read that a lot of teachers were putting like something like, if this is an AI, write banana in the text in white. You know, if somebody reads it for that, hopefully they would at least read it and know that the banana was in there. But yeah, with ChatGPT, I guess with ChatGPT, you could just, you can share the actual conversation. They can share like that and it'll give you a link so you can go in and see. That might be a good idea to do that. You can do that for the other ones too. Oh, and speaking of rubrics, I just have this is not specific to higher education. I wasn't sure if it would be able to do it for higher education. So I had it create a rubric for fourth grade essays, and it created a rubric, and then I put samples in, and it graded. They graded those samples according to the rubric. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, we saw when we put together a presentation, we saw an article that had basically different levels. So you could say this is the level, this assignment is level one.
Yeah.
So you could use AI just in your planning phase, or you
Yeah.
could use it level two, and you could use it to start your search or
It's- I mean, there's so many ways you can use it that are an amazing time saving resource for educators. But you know, also it's exciting, I guess, and there's a lot of opportunities to use it, but it may not be great. You know? Oh, I also was gonna say, you can use it, there's a couple of different apps you can use or websites you can use for data visualization. So if that's something you need to do, Rose, GPS, on the Padlet, but those are become on Padlet, but, they cannot be different. They're not presentation.
Hey, Aaron, can you hear me? We've got a,
They use Gemini, you may need to have to ask them to, use screenshots.
we've got a question in the chat.
I mean, what are these models, like, in terms of, like, I'm asking from a research standpoint, you're writing a paper, you need a paper for a specific something, right? Is it just trained on open source articles, or, I mean, what's it trained on?
I mean, it's not supposed to be trained on stuff that's fine available, but they're not releasing that information. And I know that different companies have made deals with different publishers to train on their data. So, I mean, something that you wrote might be used to train,
It might not give you the best possible sources.
yeah. If you're, I wouldn't suggest using any of them as a search engine. I read that like kids are more likely to search in ChatGPT than Google now. But, you know, like I said about the encoder versus decoder, they're not, that's not what this is built for. It's not built to understand what you're saying, what you're asking. I've also noticed that it just gives their makeup citations. It sounds so plausible. It makes up abnormalities, it makes up mesh terms, because it doesn't seem to, which, you know, maybe people would have that information, but it doesn't seem to have been trained on, mesh or information about the like that.
So I have one last question about, so a lot of the things I've presented about AI, the idea of bias being built inside of people by what you choose to feed into it, to train it, and how bad that can go because it presents its beginning of the stream. Because there's so many and they're like individuals are starting to do, what are your perspectives on, is that gonna be better for reducing the damage of bias built into something that keeps evolving, or, I mean, where do you see that going? Is that gonna
If they're trained on, you know, they're trained on data from the internet, when people made the data with, to train Gemini with Reddit conversations, and that's terrifying, but, yeah. That was how that's doing. That's what it chooses to sit to people is to put school.
Erin, there's a question in the chat.
Oh, okay. But, you know, I mean, it's scary.
Hey, Erin, can you hear me?
Go to the top bar. And shoot the chat.
No, we're at that table. I'll sit from the yeah.
Can you repeat the question?
That one has to go output for most AI tools is basic and not significant and helpful. Other than making multiple subscriptions because there are things that can be text. I mean, GPT 4.0 has those, I have to pay. Pop AI, uses GPT for, Omni, for its model, but it's also paid. Yeah. It's, you know, they want to make money, I guess, so, there's not really a, I guess the ChatGPT also, the first few questions that you ask each day, you can use the paid model. So other than that, that's why I use AI Studio, Google AI Studio, because you can use the models that are that they're testing still. So stuff that you would otherwise have to pay for. Any other questions? Well, thank you all for coming. If you have any questions that you think of, or if you want to talk about anything, y'all are welcome to come see me. I'm just right upstairs on the first floor in the library. Y'all should have my cards. It's got my phone and email on there, so I'm happy to talk about whatever.